do that. Yes, I'm gonna start. Yeah. Do you need to move? Good to go. All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. My name is Russell Shihab, and I'm the director of Earth Day in the region of Middle East and North Africa. Um, Today, we will have quite a session learning about the role of NGOs in climate activism. Um, we will pretty much talking about the main points in the region and what we can do as a climate organization, as any other organization who really care about the environmental movement and you want to make a difference. Um, Technical issue. Just move to the other slide. There you go. So the goal of today session will be highlight the important role of NGOs and what they can do on the ground. You probably will be familiar with NGOs, but the honest truth is NGOs have a lot of potentials given the circumstances of financially, how they can support themselves and how they can sustain. However, their role is undeniable. For you guys and whoever is listening online, we will have takeaway, which is the best practices, conduct research to facilitate possible policy development and building institutional capacity, which is all will help to build and move forward with the environmental movement. Today we will have three speakers. Two of them is online, which is Mr. Abdussalam Medani and Ms. Farah Atayat. And also we will join us in a second, Mr. Nishad Shafi. He will be here and present with us. A little bit about me. I start working in the environmental movement and specifically with Earth Day organization, go back in 2010. Coming from a civil society development background, but once I start that job with, at the time was a job and then it's become a passion with Earth Day organization. Until then, been trying my best to fight for the environmental movement, which is really not the easy thing to do in Middle East and North Africa. However, we done a lot of tremendous job. This is pretty much our agenda. I'll go through it very quick about the main topics, and then I will hand it to my speaker, Abdussalam Medani. We used to work together. And he gonna be doing the Zoom conversation from Erbil from Iraq. We're gonna have three different sessions, which is first one will be payback to Mother Earth, and then Ms. Farah Hatayat will talk about the important roles of women and media in the Middle East, which is really important subject to pay attention for. And then Nishad will talk about the youth leading climate action in the Middle East. You know, everybody knows Middle East and North Africa is politically and unstable. However, with all these circumstances, we were, like as an Earth Day organization, we were be able to go through all of that obstacles and then make really a difference for the past decade. And so it's fascinating to work in this region, which is, you know, go through a lot of turbulence, you know, back and forth. And even in the Arab Springs, we were organizing a lot of different, you know, activities all over Middle East and North Africa. And then this is a little bit what we've done for the past decades, and those actually from the last Earth Day, which is 2022. This one in Yemen, and this one in Pakistan. And one of the major things we're really concentrating on in our program, it's the climate and environmental literacy. It is the power to move the environmental movement forward in the Middle East. Let's put it this way, it is actually the key to move the environmental movement in the Middle East and North Africa. And it's really just the beliefs that individuals and community around the world should learn about Earth. This should be in each curriculum in schools, starting from, you know, elementary school, teaching those kids what is the environment, what is the circumstances, what is the impact, and also we will be able to teach them what is the solutions. And this is the simple definition of what is climate and environmental literacy. For sure, you can take it to the next level, which is, you know, study in depth about it in universities and in schools, but this is a simple definition for climate and environmental literacy. And leading to our main subject, which is, can the NGOs lead that? Well, the answer is definitely yes. Now, why we say NGOs can lead? Well, there is a couple main things, which is NGOs have the ability to involve with people on the ground. They actually, one of the best factors in the society who actually in touch with people. They live in that country, in that region. They very well know about what exactly the climate crisis in their region and their country. And they will have the ability because, you know, they mix of educators, they mix of people from everywhere. They work in one institution. So they will be able to learn and spread the awareness in their region or in their country. Also, they have the ability because nowadays NGOs have a role everywhere. Even in today's CUB, you will see a lot of NGOs around. So they will be able to push those findings and make change in the international agenda. And also, they have really influential outcomes. You know, you see a lot of the civic, I would say, movements. They change a lot of main points in their countries, which is included probably policy-wise. They will be able to help the government to make a decision based on the findings and the research they'll be able to do on the ground. And not to mention, they have the potential to make it happen. Well, this is, you know, it's a point of discussion and not really argument. Does not mean there is no other entities cannot do the job. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to use the people who already got some experience and they already on the ground. They already work on different projects. Yes, but you know, it's probably the best to start from zero, but you know, to learn the basics and then you develop that. But our environment cannot wait So we need to use that knowledge for people who actually be able to execute, and they've done a lot of projects before. So that's why it's really important to pay attention to those NGOs. Decision, of course, because they have to make a decision and take projects and execute it, and that's what they do. There is a couple of resources I wanted to highlight, and I'm happy to share it with everybody through our website. A simple way to find it, which is you go to earthday.org. We have a page specifically for climate and environmental literacy. You can find it easily on our website. This is linked to it. And also we have another page for Middle East and North Africa if you're interested to learn about our programs and what we're doing for the next Earth Day and pretty much for every day. Now I wanted to introduce Mr. Abdussalam Medani. He is a civic activist. He will be our first speaker. He's gonna join us through Zoom. And he has more than 18 years of experience in civil society program and management. Salam, how you doing? I think you can hear us, yeah?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you very clear here. Thank you for attending our session. I will hand you the mic. And Mr. Abdussalam Medani, he's talking with us from Erbil, from Iraq. Okay, the mic is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, my dear. Good afternoon, everyone. I set the timer on 14 minutes, so if you hear the ring of the bell, it's the minute of 14, then I will start the countdown, and maybe earlier, inshallah. So it's not a phone call that I will receive. It's the timer. So there was a king in his kingdom, and he announced to know who from his kingdom would love the most the kingdom. He did a very big hole there and asked everyone at night to go with one cup of water, full of water, and spill it in that big hole. And this will be an indicator for him, for the rest, for everybody, that we care, we love our kingdom. Night went, the other morning, they went to see the big hole. They didn't see much of water had been spilled, poured in that big hole. So the perception was, nobody cares. But in fact, each individual said, do you think that with my small cup of water, I can fill this big hole? Answer was, no. So this mission is a mission for everyone. Each individual counts. And through my presentation, I'll try to go through, after this introduction, I'll try to talk about some statistics that we are facing here in Iraq, the internal dynamics, what we have internally systemized that we can encounter this climate change, and then we'll go to talk about the rural civil society and some of the activities that we, as Rwanda Foundation, we are doing. So starting from that story, the main message is, it's a holistic work for each individual who is living in this big bus that we call it Mother Earth. We need to take care of it. Part of it's true. It's policies, the government, the imposement, and the dynamics from big corporate also, but also each individual counts, and we need each one to bring their individual cup full of water and to fill that hole. Iraq is one of the 5th main fragile countries vulnerable towards climate change. Why this? We will talk after a while. Some statistics, and we have some paper, some pictures if the team there can help and show some of those dramatic pictures, in fact, that we have in Iraq, which is very unfortunate. But number-wise, depending on the public ministries, official statistic, they are saying that from the upstream countries since 2021 till now, 50% of the water coming from the upstream countries have been decreased, 50%. The reserved water that we have since last year had been decreased by 60%. 39% of the lands, agriculture lands, had been suffering from desertification, and 55% of the rest are under that threat. Depending on the Ministry of Water Resources, they are saying since 2021, it has been, specifically 2021, the worst year, drought year that Iraq had been suffering from since 92 years ago. So it's almost 1 century. 2021 was the worst one regarding drought. All this affected on the plan of Ministry of Agriculture, and depending on their, what they call the winter plan for 2022, it was supposed to plant 16,500,000 hectares, like I said, in 2021, depending on the Ministry of Agriculture. But now, because of this loss of water specifically, and that was one of the reasons of previous statistics that we mentioned, only 4,125,000 hectares will be planted. And this is a huge danger on the food security. Also, there was a conference that we held with the Northern Technical University in Mosul talking about the food security. Depending on the Ministry of Trade, they said our reserve from grains and rice, we can make it only till the end of the year, unless you have other urgent plans in order to catch up with what is happening. 20% of the water, that clean water that we have, if we will not do anything till the end of 2050, will be decreased in Iraq. So a lot, in fact, to be done, and like I said, depending on the statistics, we are the 5th vulnerable country facing this climate change. What do we have internally in order to encounter this challenge? In Baghdad, the federal government, we had a Minister of Environment, and then they changed it. And in some period of time, they mixed it with the Ministry of Health. In Kurdistan, we didn't have a ministry. We have a board for protecting and developing environment. And when I see their mandate, it's all about suggesting, coordinating, following up, publishing, having written reports, etc. So there is no exact empowerment for those entities internally from the public sector, which is the main machine. Especially Iraq is a renter country, and the government is still the main machine for decision making, for politics, for economy, for culture and other sectors. It's not that strong, and the decision maker environment is not one of the top even 10 things in their agenda. 3 main reasons that make us as a country even more vulnerable. One of those is the political conflict. Second is the corruption, main title. And the third one is the bad governance. We have resources, and lately with the uprising of the oil prices, we have good reserve. In fact, our cash reserve had been increased to $85 billion, and gold reserve is 130 tons. Especially lately, we bought, as a government, bought a lot. So we have good resources, but the bad management, the bad governance is affecting on it, and this is depending on the UN reports. This is what we are suffering from. The role of NGOs. Since the change in Iraq in 2003, there was and is still a huge hope that NGOs can participate in a big deal with most of the transition period that's happening in Iraq since 2003. And some research are suggesting that after each regime change, system change, usually there is a period of 13 to 15 years, then establishment can occur. But in fact, it seems in Iraq, maybe this, till now, it's duplicating. My fear is, I hope that it will not go to triple. We will not multiply it by 3. So civil society, NGOs specifically, can play a very good role in this spectrum and participate as one of the main factors in parallel, in collaboration with the public sector and the private sector. We keep pushing for that agenda to make the civil society NGOs specifically participating in the decision-making process in different levels and try to push for the agenda of environment and the decision-making leaders' agenda. We are trying, and some of the initiatives that we are doing referring to this. In general, there are a bunch of NGOs who are focusing on this this challenge and trying to raise awareness. Rwanda Foundation, we are working in four sectors. We are working on education sector, youth sector, environment, and vulnerable groups. And the environment part of it, our initiatives are separated, and you would hear many others are doing some other initiatives, filling some other gaps. Planting trees. We started an initiative with other partners, Hasar organization, to plant 1 million oak tree in Kurdistan to increase the green areas, as we selected this type of tree that will consume less water and evergreen trees. Part of it is raising awareness, and the other part of it to work as a green belt, because again, research are suggesting that if you will do nothing about the climate change, the number of days that we will face sandstorms will increase from 100 days per year to 300 days per year. Iraqis will suffer from sandstorms. So raising awareness and increasing the green areas, plus encountering the sandstorms. Also, we have some raising awareness campaigns through video clips and paintings in coordination with the parliament and other stakeholders to raise the awareness how to use water and increasing the green areas. Plus this bell of danger that things are pushing toward a bad reality, bad future if you will not do anything in this regard. The educational approach specifically, we have two good initiatives. One of those is to design and publish a booklet to be embedded with the curriculum in the primary schools and to be read with them. Plus, we have some other initiatives. The youngest generation are trying to communicate with those youth and do some activities, raising awareness part of it, and to participate also in cleaning the area around them while they go to picnics and other kind of stuff. Plus, we have an annual activity, a project, youth volunteer initiative to engage youth to participate. Part of it is raising awareness, but other parts also to do cleaning, planting, and some of those are going even deeper towards youth agri-business approaches. And the main reason of it also, part of it is economy too, but the other part of it also increase the green areas. Using solar systems and clean energy, one of the other initiatives that we are working on it. One of the proposals that we are in discussions with some stakeholders is we are trying to use the solar system for lighting and maybe other kind of uses in the rural areas. One of the proposals is to all schools in the rural areas to use solar system, not use other sources of electricity, and also the clinics. One of the approaches also in 2023 we are working on it, and that the government also is moving toward that direction, is the harvesting of rain waters. Of the drought, one of the approaches is to get use of that one also. As said, this is a holistic, this is a general kind of approach. Everybody should participate. And I remember one of those very nice, inspiring proverbs said by Malik bin Nabi. He was saying, history is usually made by thousands of small initiatives. We, with other stakeholders, other sister organizations, and collaboration with the private sector and the public sector, we are trying all together to write new history. And with this event also, we hope that it will be a very good message to the whole world to collaborate for a better future for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abdul Salam Madani, for your insight. You mentioned a lot of great points here, and you know, I just want to present to the audience and to the live streamers. It's like, you know, this is the disappointer doesn't. That's the unfortunate. This is the unfortunate pictures from Iraq. This is the current pictures about what's going on. And, you know, that's why we highlight, you know, you probably guys seen a lot of the disasters going on, but this is alert, you know. Sometimes you get alert and this is alert, but sometimes you just disaster happen, and we still can have a solution to make things happen and change in reality. I wanted to introduce our second speaker, Ms. Farah Atiyat. She's a journalist and she's a trainer. She currently works with Al-Ghad newspaper in Jordan. You know, she's one of the environmentalists, and she actually used the power of media to spread the word of environmental movement and to advance each and every concept. Ms. Farah currently, she concentrating on the role of women in media and in the environmental activism. I will hand the mic to Ms. Farah. Welcome and thank you for your time. And the stage is all yours. Thank you.
To start from the point that you mentioned a while ago, when you present some pictures from Iraq, and you said about the disaster. So here we are saying that, okay, who will tell these kind of stories to the people and tell them about what is happening around the world? From Iraq till Jordan, and from any countries actually in the Middle East. Here it's come the role of the media. We usually, most of us, we are highlighting in our reports, our investigative report, even in the print media or any kind of media outlets, for example, in the TV or in the social media, we are trying to give the information and the right information to the people and to the whole world what is happening around us. This is why when we are hearing about what is happening in the Europe countries, for example, this year, and we are seeing the fire in the forest, and we are seeing the high temperature and what is happening, what's happened with the people from this kind of high temperature. We heard about many people they died actually because of the high temperature in some countries of Europe. So this kind of information, it's coming from the media outlet, the journalists who are experts actually in covering the environmental and in covering the climate change issue around the world. So our role actually is telling the people how the impact of the climate change they are really affecting their countries, and how they are affecting actually the people in the Middle East. And especially we know that in the Middle East there are some development countries that they are really suffering from the impact of the climate change. So let me give you like an example about Jordan, for example. Jordan, we are suffering from the impact of the climate change, especially in water resources, and we are the second poorest country in the world in the water resources. And because of the rainfall, it's not like before, and we are witnessing what it's called the flash rain, and sometimes there is the drought. Actually, it's being now we are witnessing more than before, and because of the high temperature. So a lot of things that has been changed from actually last years, and since Paris Agreement, we are now hearing that the impact of climate change is moving fast. And even we heard from the UN, they said that we are not on the right track if actually the governments and the whole countries didn't take the real action on the ground on adaptation and mitigation. So this is why now we in the COP27, more than 3,000 journalists, they are attending the COP in the first week and in second week, because they need to report to the world what is going on in this COP, the statement for the leader. Are they going to take really the right actually process so they can actually reduce the impact of climate change? And we're going to see a lot of financial flows for the adaptation. So this is, like I said, this is why we're trying to let the people know more information. But we don't want to forget that also the journalists need to be careful when they are reporting about the climate change impacts, and especially when it's come to the numbers, because sometimes the number some media outlet, when they publish the numbers that it's come from reports, outside reports, international reports or statistics, it's not right. So we need usually to look about the information that we have in our hands, and to be sure this is the right information, because we are seeing a lot of information on the impact of climate change, and even on the climate change and how the countries they are dealing with it. It's not right, and this is makes sometimes among the people and the public, sometimes it's make them a little bit fear, and because they don't understand what it's happening. And when we put some numbers that they say, oh my God, it's going to happen a big disaster, and the people they're gonna die because they're gonna witness, for example, floods in coming period. So the people, because they don't understand what it's really the climate change and the impact of climate change, sometimes it's making them confused and fear from what is the future for their countries. So, and sometimes there's some information, because we know that there's a lot of people they denying the climate change, and they are trying to put a lot of information that no, the climate change, it's a big political issue, and there's no something called the climate change. And this kind of information actually it's spread by the media outlets, and it's spread by the social media people who are in the platform. And this is, this is really, it's make a hard time for as a journalist to convince the people. No, there's something called actually climate change, and we are seeing the impact of the climate change, because the IPCC reports that it's been putting from more than 1,000 of actually scientists. They said that the climate change is there, and we can't deny it anymore. And because, sometimes, like I said, maybe we see that coming from USA, for example, when Trump decided that he doesn't want to continue with Paris Agreement, and there is a lot of information coming out. They need to deny that the climate change is a big issue and it's political, and they need to fight them on fuel oil and other things. So this is why we need to be really, when addressing the climate change in our media outlet, we need to know from which resource we are taking this kind of information. Is it right or not? Is there any agenda behind this kind of information, and it's need actually to deny what it's called in climate change? Or it's really showing the impact of climate change in our country. So sometimes we are playing a big role, that we are also raising the awareness for the people, because I know that in the Middle East still the people, maybe in some countries, they don't really know what is the climate change and how it's affected their life and how they can adapt with these kind of impacts. So maybe sometimes especially when we talk to the people and in the ground, they said, okay, maybe you are talking about the weather, and you are talking about the rainfall, and you are talking about the high temperature, but they didn't connect it with the climate change. I think because there's no campaign and awareness campaign, it's coming from the government, and it's not helping on the ground, so the people, they can really understand how this actually impact of climate change affected their life. And also maybe because there's also a big knowledge between the journalists. They don't still understand how they can make the technical words that it's related to climate change as simple as the people, they can understand it. Still, we are using the numbers and the technical words that sometimes it's confusing the people, and they don't understand what we are talking about. And also sometimes the journalists themselves, they don't actually follow what is happening on the regional level and on the global region level, so they can regionalize and localize the reports and the covers when it's come to their country. So maybe also because there's a lot of reports, it's in a different language, and it's sometimes it's very difficult to translate it. So there's a big actual responsibility on the journalists who are covering the climate change and covering the environment. They need actually to use the right information for the people and make it as simple, so the people, when they publish anything, they can comment, they can act to this kind of information, and maybe they can push on the government, so they can sometimes change their policies and their program if it's not in the right direction with the global actually policies for fighting the climate change. And like I said, sometimes there's a big issue with the government, because sometimes they don't allow for the journalists to take any information, and sometimes it's hard for the journalists to find the right information from the government, so they can report what is happening on the government level and how they actually act with the impact of the climate change. So yes, there is a big actual role for the journalists when it's come now to the climate change, and there's a big role to the journalists who are attending COP27, that they need actually to really look inside more the details and the information. It's not like only taking the information and publish it as it. I think we need to go deeply and investigate more and try to contact with the ministers there, and even I know that there is a lot of NGOs as well, and we can try to contact the NGOs so they can help us when it's come to the storytelling about the impact of the climate change, and they can have a lot of ideas, and maybe sometimes they give you some angles it's been hidden from your eyes as a journalist, so we can actually publish it. And And maybe because I'm a woman as well, here I'm also wanted to highlight what is the role for women as well when it's come to climate change. We know from the reports that the most affected actually group from climate change are women and children and youth as well. And why women? They are the most ones who are affected from climate change, because we know that in some countries, the women, they are the ones who are responsible for the families. And they are the ones who actually work and try to find the financial resource for the family. And most of them, they are working in the agricultural fields. So, for example, because of the droughts and because now we don't see the rainfall as it's been before, and maybe because it's now being reduced, the number for the rainfall, it's reduced than before. So most of the people who are working in the agricultural field, they don't find the water resources that it's necessary for their actually products. So this is why most of them, they actually leave their actually lands and start to find another actually, let's say, resources for their financial resources for their family, and they need to look for a new job. Say they move from their city to another city within the country. But we don't know actually if we're going to witness, because the international organization for migrants, they said that we're going to witness a huge number of refugees because of the climate change. Actually, they're going to move to another countries, and most of them, they are from women. 80% from the refugees, they are from women. So this has put the women in the situation that sometimes they're gonna face a very difficult and dangerous situation where they are going to live in a camp. Maybe they're gonna sometimes someone I don't know actually, but sometimes they're gonna witness, for example, how they're gonna enforce actually their daughters to get married in an old age because they need money, for example. And sometimes they're like maybe some women, they gonna actually being raped because of because they are living in a situation they are not very security. So this is maybe here we are saying, yes, we need to empower the women when it's come to climate change, and we need to give them the right technology and the right training, so they when they face something like that, they know how to find another resources for their family. So we are now seeing a lot of initiative. It's coming from the women. They are trying, for example, to do a project what it's called hydroponic. For example, they do also some kind of planting products in their home, in the rooftop, and this is actually in Jordan. Some kind of this initiative, they help them to plant some products that it's gonna help them in their actually in food. It's not like a food security; it's a big issue, but we can actually say it's one of the steps that it's gonna help in actually food security. So yes, like I said, the women they have a big role, and now I think most of the attendees in the COP27, they are from women, and we are now hearing the voice of the women, the ones who are having a real initiative on the ground for fighting impacts on the climate change. And now we are seeing a lot of women. They are speakers in the panelists. They give a lot of ideas on how they can be an active, and even in the energy sector, even in the agriculture sector, how they can even be a part with the government when it's come to implementing the policies and the program of adaptation and mitigation. I think we are going to see a lot of women who are leader in the region when it's come to find a lot of solution that help themselves actually in the first place and their families, and even their actually the government as well when it's come to the policies. Thank you.
Thank you, Farah. Thank you for your session is actually one of the very influential subject we talked about, and definitely there is a lot of potentials when it comes to women, and only our hope is, you know, we can see change coming soon, because I don't think we run out of patience, and also our earth need a urgent action. Now I want to introduce our third speaker, which is, if we can go to the slides, please. Mr. Nashad Shafi, please coming in. And Mr. Nashad, he is the co-founder and executive director of the Arab Youth Climate Movement in Qatar. He is environmentalist, and he is a policy-oriented social change advocate, best known for his work on youth climate movement and environmental and climate policies in the Middle East. His core area of expertise include analyzing global environmental and climate politics, energy transition, and sustainable issues. Thank you, Mr. Nashad. I'll leave the ground to you for your session, which will be the Arab Youth Leading Climate Action in the Middle East. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you, Rasul. Thank you for the brief introduction, and also thanks to our previous speakers who were given some good insight on great projects that has been done in the region from Jordan to Iraq, and we look forward to different projects as we have been doing in the state of Qatar. So I will take you to a small introduction about who we are and what are our projects. So our organization is called Arab Youth Climate Movement Qatar. We are based in Qatar, basically providing sort of youth-led advocacy and awareness. And it's a sort of an organization where youth creates a platform to discuss about the youth-led initiatives here in the state of Qatar. So the idea is to have a sort of an independent voice from the young community, how they can actually drive action within the community, not only always depending on government to make decisions. So that was the idea behind starting Arab Youth Climate Movement back in 2015. And in 2019, we were officially registered as a non-profit association in the state of Qatar. So the mission and vision of Arab Youth Climate Movement Qatar is simple. It is to reawakening the ecological consciousness of the community. Why? Because we believe community is aware of their issues and environmental awareness. It's built in human being. But what is lost over the course of time is what we want to rekindle those missing aspects of life in their lives. So that's why we wanted to reawakening those deep-led environmental issues within their consciousness or subconscious mind. So I'll directly jump into some of the great projects we have been doing in Qatar, from starting with Earth Talk series. This is basically a speaker series where we invite international speakers, scientists, activists, advocates, and also like UN diplomats to come to Qatar and speak at our event, where we provide sort of access to information which are only sometimes provided to academic field. So we try to bring those of information to community. And then I jump to bringing closer to nature. That's another initiative we work on, where we use sort of technology to bring environmental issues to, or environment to closer to their eyes. So the program we do is using VR machines. The VR mission is used to basically showcase some of the ecosystem in Qatar, so that they really don't have to go to those places in real time, because sometimes we have hot summers where people cannot enjoy the natural wonders. So we provide this using this platform. Another one is eco-literacy for imams. This is also one of its kind of project we've done in the region in Qatar, where we sort of advocates using religious and Islamic preaching to take out to the community to how to advance or support environmental conservation and being a very ecologically conscious human being. So we work with the Ministry of Awqaf, the Ministry of Religion in the state of Qatar, to how we go to the mosque and use mosque as a space to preach about environmental issues that are already inscribed in the religious scriptures of Quran and Hadith. So this is one of the way we try to reach out to the community, and this project has been piloted in 10 mosques in Qatar, and we try to amplify after the World Cup later this year. And then I will go to Zero Waste Qatar. Basically, we've seen a lot of cleanups and stuff happening in Qatar, and we saw that the whole beach cleanup is not providing a solution. So we started this project with Ministry of Municipality to see how waste management can be done with private sector, because they were one of the largest user. Of course, it's consumers, but it's where they buy this product. So the idea was to bring all the big supermarkets in Qatar and with the ministry, looking at what are the policy changes that can be inbuilt that can ask them to move away from single-use plastic. And there were ongoing discussions going on. We finished the first meeting, workshop to understand what are the issues, what are the alternatives, where new policy has to be embedded in the state of Qatar. Also keeping in mind that Qatar also announced 2025 to be to be a plastic neutral country, so they wanted to take out all the plastic which are of single use. And next, I will talk about Environmental Champions of Qatar. Basically, this program helps environmental champions to be created in Qatar. This is a platform where young people who are between the age of 8 to 35 get a chance to be environmental advocates in the community. This is something we never had in the past, so we all used to struggle to come up those ladders. So basically, we provide 9 months of training, both advocacy, training, funding, proposal writing, and also some of the extremely good ones, we take them to some of the summits to showcase what's happening at the global agenda, not only with regional and local. And then I jump into one of the most important projects we are working on. It's called Reduce Your Carbon Footprint Project. It's one of its kind of project where we developed our own carbon footprint app. This was developed in, I call it indigenously made by us. Our team made this one over the course of time. The idea was to bring the narrative to young people to talk about climate change. It was always difficult to showcase the bigger problem in a very small face. So we thought how we could do that. The easiest way is to do through showcasing your footprint, how that impacts climate change. And this will actually resonate what is footprint, how is that impacting globally, and what is that to do with global warming. So we started with a very small idea to go to schools, and it was approved by the Ministry of Education and Ministry of Health to take it to all the schools in Qatar. And we started as a web-based item, and we found that young people weren't interested in using a web link to put their data to get what is their footprint. Then we thought about having an app. So we created this app like 9 months back, and all of a sudden the numbers rose from 500 to almost 2,500 students taking part now. It's an ongoing project. We still have more and more applications, more and more surveys happening every weekend or every month. So we send our team to each schools, and they have been trained how to use this app, and then they take part in this initiative. At the moment, after the initiative, it doesn't stop in just measuring your carbon footprint. We also do a lot of workshops where to show what are the things we can do in our lifestyle changes, what are the things we can reduce in our life, so to actually not only see your footprint, but retake this app every month so that see which are the areas you have been trying to reduce your impact on the environment. And we saw a lot of interest from young people who previously used to complain, I don't know what to solve with climate, it's too huge for me. So this is one of the cases where say your impact might be small, but this is something you can do at a very personal level. So yeah, this was some of the programs and some of the things we have been doing in the last many years. And our program's been supported by many, many partners in Qatar and the region. And we've been happy to have one of our partners sitting in front of us here from Save Humanity One Water Group here. So we've been trying to support how grassroots organization can be a real forefront in the Middle East region. Not only always looking for government to change, but also to be your own change maker at the ground. And ASIM in a way demonstrated that can be done to a good extent where you, along with the community, can move forward. And especially focusing on the youth community, we try to bring that change in the community or in a larger cause. So yeah, I would stop here. If you have any questions, I can jump in.
Thank you, Nishad. That's very thoughtful and a great presentation. And also, I want to thank everybody actually who is watching us from all around the world, especially from Middle East, North Africa, and the guys is attending here today. We're going to go to the session of questions and answers. If any of the audience have any question, please feel free to ask that. But you need to introduce yourself. What do you do, and then you go with the questions. Guys, have any questions on the session? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So Thomas Anderson from Sweden, here representing the EU, but we also have a program in the Middle East in Oman, and we're very happy with the collaboration with both organizations here. So first of all, I'd like to really stress that this is a very important topic. This is about how engaging people, not just informing people, but people becoming active in defining the solutions, having a sense of ownership, and therefore taking their awareness and their also behavioral change and all of that to a totally different level. So what we really have to consider is how we can organize ourselves and also bring other stakeholders involved to be much more forthcoming in getting such activities to happen. So it's what you presented here and so forth are very, very important examples. And we just have to find a way of making this spread and demonstrate the difference that what can happen. I mean, on the EU side, we are involved in actually about 150 cities in Europe are now engaged in such co-creation activities, bottom up. And I think this can happen in the Middle East too. It has to happen, and in other parts of the world. And it's not about telling people what to do. It's about working out, to learn how to organize it so that actually people take charge in a constructive way and not being afraid of that. So that's my question in a way. What's the next step? How do we proceed?
Well, our programs are basically not only building awareness. So the idea was basically we saw a lack of those in the community. So first of all, why were we targeting the household carbon footprint in the school? The Arabic schools in Qatar didn't have a basic idea of environment. It was just what I used to study 10 years or 15 years back in the school. Things have been changed so much in the education sector. The Arabic school are still lacking those compared to the English international school in Qatar. So we thought, okay, jumping before the solution, they don't know what's the problem. So let's start with the problem. So if you ask me, the household carbon footprint, just to jump into, was initially we only targeted the Arabic school. Out of the 500 schools we went, 280 was Arabic schools. So the idea was to start with the least information, and the workshop which was followed was asking how you can make those changes. We did the first of its kind intergenerational workshop where we brought parents, teachers and students to see how the intergenerational variation of consumption has changed, lifestyle has changed, and to learn from their past that they didn't need so much of resources to even have a good life. So the idea was not only to inform them, but also give them guidance how to make those changes. And then we pushed them to retake this survey application so that to see how much footprint they reduce over the time. And on implementing, of course, many of the young people who are today an engineer or a policy maker will end up in a decision-making role someday. If they are built up in that consciousness, that has a huge implication, especially in the Gulf countries. We don't know who will be a minister or undersecretary or a assistant minister. It is quite possible any of these young nationals can be one. So building that consciousness within the community gives a lot of leverage in also pushing the family. So this is not only impacting that one individual is pushed for taking some action and what implication it happens, it does a larger implication. So going back to the project again on the household carbon footprint, parents are involved because the data they need to enter, a young student cannot be able to. She need to ask or he need to ask her parents, what was the petrol consumed? What was the meat bought last month? What is the data for the traveling? What is your monthly income? How big is their home? What is their water consumed, electricity consumed? These are the hard data nobody discusses, especially in the GCC country, because most of this are availed free or subsidized or you get it as a gift. So we were asking those hard questions because many of the Qatari families are asking, how do we find the data for electricity and water, because they don't have to pay this. So these are eye-opening things for many of the people. They didn't know that there's an app to get this data free of charge. So the point you raised is absolutely important. What next? It is to implement those ideas and decisions which government has taken in the state of Qatar and all the regional countries. But first, the region itself lack a lot of information regarding environmental issues, which are sometimes I feel it is just the beach cleanup can solve everything in the world. Because we see a lot of people tending to beach cleanup, not even targeting corporates or, we saw the supermarkets to stop it. They're just happy to go and clean it. But why don't you target campaigns with big supermarkets? Like, why don't you completely remove your plastic, single-use plastic? So that targeted campaigns only come with data, and sometimes data is also very important. So that is why we started with this app, which also gives data, the consciousness of the Qatari citizens. Is that something to do with the expense they spend? Which nationality has the largest footprint? Which schools have been having largest footprint? So we have been getting those data and dismantling and seeing what and where to actually target to what to do next. Because one thing doesn't fit all boxes. So Qatar is a very diverse country, and we cannot like say, hey, this will fit everybody in the state. No. So that's why, like you mentioned, yes, it is very important to see what to implement. But if there is no level of basic of understanding what are our issues first, it is then very difficult to challenge, yeah.
Thank you very much. That was a great question, Mr. Thomas. Yes, and have another question?
Yeah. Thank you. I will put the question, I think, to the online speakers, and maybe Nishad also would like to answer. But the question that I think that raising awareness for children and youth is extremely important, and you have to do that in order to build sort of capacity for what the next generation. And what we see a lot in the Middle East, coming from working in Oman and also being connected to Europe, is that the terms of circularity and the terms also of, there is a lot of talks now about how governments can create more jobs. But actually there is also a capacity for young generation to become entrepreneurs. And become entrepreneurs sort of in nature-based enterprises, working with technology and also with sustainability issues. And for example, in Oman, the government has said that if the companies that could engage in circular economy, there is like approximately 100 billion worth of projects there, because we are not doing enough in terms of waste management. We are not doing enough when it comes to water management and other things. So there are a lot of opportunities for the youth if they can get enough support, and if we have this opportunity to create new companies within this sector. And so I would like to ask the online speakers, how do you see that in Iraq or in Jordan? What's going to happen? Do you see any change among entrepreneurs and the youth, how they are creating companies?
Thank you. Ms. Farah, you would give us some insight on the question, and then I will switch to Mr. Abdussalam Madani, if we can answer some of your insight from Iraq. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. Actually, it's a very important question. And we here in Jordan, actually, we are facing a lot of discussion with the government how we can support the youth so they can actually have a bigger interaction when it's come to the climate change and helping even in adaptation and mitigation process. To be honest, there's a big bargaining actually. Usually the government, they don't hear the voices of the youth. They don't engage the youth in any way, even when they actually come to putting the policies or when it's come to the initiatives. Sometimes there's also a big challenging for the youth because they cannot convince the government here with their initiative. There's like a big process, a huge process and very complicated process when they need to open their companies or they need to do a small initiative within their cities. But now I think it's it's a start to be moving in a good way. So the government, for the first time, they trained a youth in Jordan, 6 youth actually. So they are a part of the official delegation, and they train them to be a negotiator. So they're gonna actually join the official delegation. I think most of them they're gonna actually attend the second week, and they're gonna be part of the delegation, and they're gonna be on the table of the negotiating, and they're gonna tell their actually opinion how they can. They can actually give an idea for the solution for how to deal with the impact of climate change when it's come to the mitigation and adaptation. And to be honest, when I saw this step, we were actually very happy, because I think the government now, they trying to involve the youth as much as they can. And even they mentioned for the first time the youth and the women and their policies, and how they can empower them, so they can be actually leader, and they can do their initiative and help at least individually the other society, so they can actually educate them, and they can help them with a small initiative to adapt to the climate change. And now also we are seeing a big movement from the students in the schools and in the even in the universities, and there's like a big actually now lectures, and there is a training for them so they can be part. And there's like sometimes some NGOs, they are trying to involve them within their campaigns, and so they can be also a part to give their ideas and to help the community with this issue. So in the Jordan, yes, but I think still in the Middle East, I don't know, in Iraq, and but I know in Qatar as well. But still, we need more to do in this field, because still we need to engage the youth more to be part of the policies, and even to help the communities when it's come to the climate change issues.
Thank you, Farah. Mr. Abdel Salam, do you have any insight about the subject?
Yes, in fact. So I would frame my answer with there is a very big hope on the societal level in this regard, and very close one, in fact. The general environment that we are living in Iraq, we are in a transition period in different levels. Renter country, centralized government, oppressive government, to more of multi-parties, elections, etc. So it's a transition period. So politically, economically, even from a social-based economy to a more of open market, to link it with the entrepreneurship. So even the mentality, everybody was hired by the government. Till now, the mentality is there. But the hope is the new generation, in fact, on those two different fronts. One, environmental, they are very linked, and you would see a lot of engagement from the new generation. As Farah also said, they are linked, attached to it. They are there, their hearts and their volunteerism is there. Plus, the entrepreneurship part also in it, that they forgot about the idea of government should employ everybody, and the capacity is not there. So they are seeking to find jobs in the civic sector and specifically in the private sector. And we are doing some work in the entrepreneurship front also, by the way, but this is another story. More specifically, how to get use of this trend of youth entering the private sector, being entrepreneurs, start their own startups, be friendly with the environment. Also, there are some of those initiatives. It's not a trend yet, but it is there. Personally, I have a couple of those stories for young entrepreneurs entering the private sector, and some of those ideas are very linked with the environment and the climate change. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Abdel Salam. It's a lot of challenges, to be honest, but in the same time, there is a lot of hope with our youth and with our programs. You know, before I thank my speakers, I just want to present very quick that Earth Day organization. For the next Earth Day, we're going to continue with our theme, which is invest in our planet. It's the same theme for 2022. We're going to carry on the achievements and in the whole continents pretty much. And then our main programs will be number one, concentrating on climate and environmental literacy. I keep repeating that, climate and environmental literacy. This is our main program, and then we will continue with our other campaigns in the Middle East and North Africa, which include planting trees and also ending plastic campaigns. Hopefully in the next Earth Day, we will see some women programs. We work on that. It depends on what's going on, how we can get women involved more in the environmental movement. Now I want to thank each speaker, starting from Mr. Abdussalam Madani, going to Farah Atiyat from Jordan, Mr. Abdussalam from Iraq, who joined us via Zoom, and then I would say my colleague here on the stage, Nashad Shafi. Thank you very much for your time, and keep up with the environment. We're the only people live on this earth, and we're the only people gonna save it. Thank you very much. Thank you.